Well, hello, and welcome. It's me again, and you know me, Joy Ruffin coming to you from the Sunshine State, Florida. And this is Wednesday, so it's Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies, Living Legacies. And every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock this time, we bring you guests, women who are all about empowering you with all the things that they've learned over the years. And tonight, the topic is here's the new buzzword. It's a juicy one because it's one that we all can connect and relate to. It's about emotional intelligence. So we gave it the title, How Emotional Freedom Can Help You Succeed. And our guest tonight, Sheila Sutherland, is all about, she has 20 years experience in the science and educational industry. And she is a social and emotional intelligence certified coach. Now that's a lot to take in. We have a lot to discuss and talk about tonight. I want you to say hello and to help me to welcome Sheila Sutherland to our show. I'm bringing her over now. Hello, Sheila, and welcome.
Hi, Joy. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I am so beyond excited, I can barely even tell you. So I'm just excited to get having this chat and meeting your audience. This is awesome.
Well, we are delighted to have you here. It is awesome because your title, emotional intelligence, is really intriguing to me because how shall we put it, meat and potatoes in those two words, emotional intelligence. So let's talk about that. How did you decide and what decided you on becoming a certified emotional intelligence coach? How did you come to that?
I would love to say it was a very straight line coming to it, but it wasn't. I took a lot of different paths to get here, like I think we all do, right? Because that's just life. We have different opportunities that come upon us. Some work, some don't.
Mhm.
And when I first became a coach, so I think goodness now, I must be about 3 or 4 years ago now, where I left the teaching industry and decided to come into personal coaching.
Uh-huh.
I like everybody else, started just doing kind of general coaching, but I started going, well, I felt like it was too broad. I wanted to find a way to really narrow in into what I thought was an area that created a lot of challenges for people, because I'm very relationship based. And I don't mean relationship just as romantic relationship. I mean
Uh-huh.
all relationships,
Yes.
friends, family, professional. And I'm like, okay, so what is it within relationships that cause a lot of problems? It's
Yes. Yes. Yes.
usually miscommunication due to our emotions. And I kind of went, okay, this is where there's a lot of problems happening. How can I be part of the solution? And I always love the quote, and I don't know who said it, where it came from, but
Uh-huh.
it's, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I don't know how I came across the Institute for Social and Emotional Intelligence. I think I was Google searching one day. I came across this. I started looking into their program. I hemmed and hawed over it for honestly, probably a good 2 years, because it wasn't a cheap course to do. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm sure.
So oh my God. So I had to, I was like, okay, this is a real commitment. Am I going to do this? And this, in about a year ago, everything worked out for me. And I'm like, this is the time. This is the time for me to do this. So I jumped in both feet, and I have been loving it ever since, because it answers so many questions for me personally. And now when I'm talking with my, friends and clients, and they're like, oh my God, I just never thought of it that way. And I'm like,
I,
yes.
I get it. I really get it. And I love the way that you explain that because, Sheila, you brought into that explanation a word that is major for me, and that's relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships are everything, and they're the core, the base,
Yes.
the foundation of everything. And when you said that most of the quiggly, wiggly type of diversions happen because of not being able to communicate and because of all of that emotional stuff, I get it.
Yes.
Now, explain to us, what is emotional intelligence and why is it important, and how does it versus against IQ and EQ. Can you explain that a wee bit to us?
Oh, definitely. I'll kind of do the last part first.
Sure.
So when you're looking at IQ and EQ, okay,
Uh-huh.
so IQ, we're more familiar with IQ because that's been kind of like a benchmark of measuring any sort of intelligence forever.
Yes.
So this is IQ is what you are born with. Now, it is something that is not completely written in stone. You do have a certain amount of play with it, but what you're born with is what you've got. And it's straight on, kind of like book intelligence and what it is, and you can't really change it too much.
Uh-huh.
When you look at emotional intelligence, it is something that I look at it as more pliable. You can build that skill. It's not something that we're born with. Some people can be a little bit genetic, but it's actual skills that you can work on, you can cultivate, so it can become greater over time. And they're finding now, all the research is showing that people who have a higher EQ have more of a chance of having more success in life and in business than somebody who has just a high IQ. And why they're looking at that is, again, because it's relationship. I don't know if you've known some people who have like superior, like we're talking Mensa level IQs, like
Yes.
smart as everything, but a lot of times they can't relate to people very well, right? The relationship factor is a little bit tough.
That's a very salient point because all of us have met brilliant, highly intelligent people, but their social skills, their communicating skills are lacking.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're speaking to. I get that. Yes.
Yeah. So just because someone has a high IQ doesn't mean they're going to have a high EQ.
No.
Right.
Yes.
So this, and again, because the IQ, you get stuck in a certain type of intelligence. Well, we know, I mean, gosh, when I was going through university, I think we were learning about 7 different types of intelligences that there are out there. But it's the emotional intelligence that is the key to positive, successful relationships. And when I looked at that, I went, this is the magic pill. I think that, that we really need to spend more time in cultivating in society and as a whole, I think.
Yes. Let me ask you something. Did I hear this? Because I was tuned in, and yet, did I hear that emotional intelligence in the long run will serve you? What's the right word? Not necessarily better, but will serve you well as opposed to IQ in the long run? Okay.
Yes, that's what the research is showing now. There's a higher chance of success. Now, granted, everyone's definition of success is different.
Yes.
But when you're looking just, whatever a textbook definition of success is, the people who have the higher EQ have a better chance of more success personally and professionally.
All right. So now, Sheila, break down for us in layman's terms. I think we all know and we get it. And yet for me, I find sometimes most of us overstate and overthink that we know what we don't know. And so explain to us as clearly as you can, what is emotional intelligence? Okay. I think we know, but we need to hear it from a pro.
Sure. Emotional intelligence is essentially having, okay, well, I'll do the social part after. Emotional intelligence just on ourselves is our awareness of our own emotions and how they affect other people. And then the social part is being able to read other people's emotions and then to be able for you to adjust with them, right? So it really starts with the awareness. And I think my opinion only, I believe one of the competencies, because emotional intelligence is made up of 26 different competencies, and we do not have time to go through probably all of them today. But one of the ones that I view as the most important is self-awareness. Yes. And I think when we are more aware of when emotions are rising in our body, actually being able to recognize them, because we all have signs. For some people, it may be temperature. For some people, it might be a feeling, maybe a tightness, or maybe their tummy starts to get a certain kind of butterflies. We all have a point in our body that will tell us we're being triggered.
Yes.
And if we can really tune into that awareness of it, and you're getting to that point, you can then be proactive in being able to manage your reaction. Because I think as a whole, we get triggered by something. We get, say we get angry about something. So we're triggered and we react. And then we're like, oh crap, now I have to go back and do damage control.
That's your words for me. They resonate in the best way, because I think when it comes to emotions, we all know something triggers us and we lose our ability to manage our emotions.
Yes.
And let me ask you this, Sheila, because this is important for me to know. I learned this a long time ago, and now I'm beginning to, what is the difference between manage your emotions and control your emotions? Now, words to me are vital, and they're two big, big words. Someone told me that it's best to learn to manage your emotions as opposed to control them. And somehow that resonated with me. Does that hold water with you?
Yes. Yes. That's the big thing about emotional intelligence, is we will never say control.
Wonderful.
Okay. Because control, for some people, when you get kind of the image of what control means, that means I'm not allowed to have an emotion.
Yes.
And that's not who we are. We're humans. We are emotional beings. And my opinion is all emotions are beautiful. There is no positive. There is no negative. They're all there. They serve a purpose. And I really don't like when people are like, oh, I can't have all these negative emotions. They're there for a reason. You need to honor them in the same way you honor the so-called positive emotions.
Sheila, that's so powerful. That is, I don't think in all of my 100,000 years here on the planet, I've ever heard it expressed quite that way. What you just said as it relates to emotions is so powerful for me. All emotions are beautiful. It's how we learn to manage them. My thinking going off the rail a wee bit, I adore women. I love women. I see all women as beautiful. And so many don't see themselves that way because they have this idealized vision of what beauty is. That was very powerful. That's a very good way to look at emotions. So how do we learn to, the other point that you made here, I like this, happiness as an emotion versus happiness as a lifestyle. Let's speak to that a little bit.
You bet. Oh, and before I go too much further too, just talking about, between the manage and control.
Yes.
So no control, but manage is, I'm feeling something. Why am I feeling it?
Yes.
Now, how am I going to react to get a positive outcome?
Yeah.
So this is where I talk about transformation as a choice, right? And this sounds like this is like a long period of time, but all of this is happening within milliseconds. Okay. So you're kind of going, okay, I'm being triggered. I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? Oh, I'm being triggered because of this. Now is not the time to bite this person's head off. So how am I going to react to get a better result? So you're thinking all this in that moment. And so that's where the manage is how am I managing my own behavior to create a better reality? So, and then there's lots of different things we can do in there, but I just wanted to make that distinction between manage and control.
I love it. And I'm glad that you did, because that has always been a big question mark in my head, because I heard this many, many years ago. I've had more life coaches than you can imagine in life, because if you're really about building yourself up to the best that you can be, you have to get inside. Self-awareness, you said, was number one, right? Yes. I like that. But let's talk to happiness as an emotion versus happiness as a lifestyle.
You bet.
Good.
Now, if for anyone who is, watching and listening, I'm going to throw this as a suggestion.
Sure.
Go and watch the documentary called Happy.
Ah,
I love it. It's one of my favorites. I watch it probably a couple of times a year.
uh-huh.
Amazing information. And they kind of cover this a little bit. And when you look at happiness, you can ask 100 people on the street, what do you want most out of life? I would say almost all of them will say, I want to be happy. But
Yeah.
if you ask them if they are right now, they'll go, no, I'll be happy when. And it's always, I'll be happy when I lose the 50 pounds. I will be happy when I'm making $100,000 a year. I will be happy when I have a house or a nice big house. So we attach our happiness to outside things.
Yes.
Well, when we do that, and you're putting that emotion of happy based on outside factors, it's fleeting because those outside factors can change, they can disappear, they can go away, and so then that will negatively impact your happiness. But if you look at happiness as a lifestyle, it's I can be happy no matter what. And that's where the
Mm.
choice factor comes in again. We all have bad things that happen in our lives because you know what, just life happens, right? There's things that we can't control. But if you can go through an experience and go, you know what, this was really crappy experience that I've gone through, but me as a person, can I still be happy in spite of? Yeah, I can.
I like
So
it.
it takes a little bit of work, a little bit of a shift in the mindset to be able to make that choice in the moment. Because when you tell somebody who is unhappy that happiness is a choice, they're not going to be very happy about that kind of a comment.
I got that. I got that, Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That leads me to another pivotal point that you made here. And that is that gratitude as a foundation
Yes.
for transformation. And that
Mm-hmm.
connects to what you just said. So we can
Yes.
tie that in and speak to that a wee bit. Because
Yeah.
transformation, we're always in, whether we acknowledge, accept, embrace it or not, because
Yeah.
change is in the air. It's part of the stratosphere. So that being happy where you are and being grateful for what is, that's important. So share with us
Yes.
a little bit how you speak to that and how you express that.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit of a personal story of
Please.
how I came upon this.
Sure.
So we just passed the 8-year anniversary of when I lost my home due to a fire. So it was right after Christmas. A fire happened. My world essentially was destroyed. So this is where, so I went into that tailspin because I always had tied my happiness to things. I love being surrounded by beautiful things, and they're what made me happy. But
Yeah.
now everything was taken away from me. It was all gone. So all of the things that I had attached my happiness to overnight, within minutes, disappeared.
Mm.
Now I went into a very dark, what I call my dark place, for about 6 months. And there, I don't know what it was. I call it my cosmic kick in the butt that I happened one day, and I realized I need to change. And what is it that I need to change? And I don't like, I right now I can't remember if it was a certain person or an email or something I read, but kind of got me focused on gratitude.
Yes.
And I used to think, well, what do you mean? I am grateful. I'm grateful for a lot of things in life, but it was a difference between having a practice of gratitude. You
Uh-huh.
can be grateful for things, but having a daily practice of gratitude, we're talking, you're now up leveling. When you're talking about raising your vibration of things,
Yes.
you're having this daily practice.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, okay, so each day, and I think I did this for probably about 3 straight months to start,
Wow.
every day writing down, what am I grateful for? And you know what? There were days it was really tough to come up with some things that I was grateful for. But
Yeah.
I made myself, I have to have a minimum of 5. If I can do more, great, but I have to come up with 5. So I kept challenging it myself that I couldn't have the same things every day. So it's like something new. I have to, so it was this constant challenge. And I realized without realizing, and now that I've done research, I understand it. But at that moment, because I was forcing myself to purposely find things in my day to be grateful for, I was rewiring my brain for gratitude. because naturally we are wired to look for the negative. That
Yeah.
comes back to when we had to be worrying about saber-toothed tigers and whatnot. That's just the way our brains are wired. But we have the ability to rewire how our brain functions in a day. So I was rewiring, looking for the positive, and boy, did it become easier after a while to find things. But it's not just the action of writing something that you're grateful for. What makes it more powerful and causes you to up-level it even more is why.
Yes.
Why are you grateful for this? And evoke an emotion with that when you are writing why. That level of, when you can take a gratitude statement, take a why, connect it with an emotion, inside you feel the difference. It is way more powerful than just, I'm grateful for, and making a list. It does take a little bit more time, but it is worth it.
Sheila, I tell you, I'm like a little kid in school again. I love this. Our audience is loving it as well. Now, time flies around here, and we have some
Yes.
great people here in the audience. And Roy, one of my favorite mentors and someone that I love and adore, he says, "Hi, Joy and Sheila. My take is that when you are in the state of gratitude, you cannot be in the state of unhappy, even if you are in the state of Florida or California."
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. I love it.
I love that too. Let me ask you this, because here is something that you put in our little write-up here, and this is what I want you to speak to. You spoke to it very briefly, but I want you really to expound on this, because you said my 5 steps to reigniting purpose. I think that's important, because we're all out here, we found, or we're in the process of, or we're searching for purpose. So how do we reignite and find and get to that purpose? You have 5 steps to doing that. So do share with us how you do that.
Now, and I will preface this by saying, but these are my 5 steps.
Sure.
Not necessarily going to be anybody else's 5 steps, but this is the 5 steps that I took after going through the trauma, because I was diagnosed with PTSD after going the fire. So I had a little bit of a road of healing that I had to do. And this is what some of the steps that I went through for part of my healing. They do not have to go in any particular order. These is just the list that I have.
Okay.
And one of them was what we've already talked about, the first one being the practice of gratitude.
Yes.
So that was my number 1. That is where I started. I believe that has to be the foundation. You talk about building, when you're building a house, you need to have a solid foundation upon which that can handle windstorms, that can handle any rains, it handles all types of weather. Emotionally, we need the same thing. We needed a strong emotional foundation to handle the weather of life. And to me, that comes in with gratitude.
Yes.
So build your foundation as strong with that. The next one, the power of positivity. Now, we've been hearing about the power of positive thinking for decades.
Mm-hmm.
The one part of it that I kind of do my own little twist on it is when I first started thinking about positive thinking, I thought, okay, I have to think positive all the time. It's just, I always have to be in a positive state. And I realized that is not sustainable.
Yes.
I'm going to have days when I don't feel so positive, and that's okay.
Yes.
And that's human. Ooh, sorry to tell you, we're human. So, and so I had to realize, okay, so when I'm talking about the practice of positivity, I have to look at it like a scale. And some days, if I'm tipping the scale to 51% positivity, that's what I have to do. But I don't have to be 100% positive 100% of the time. My goal is 51% and up. Right? Because again, there's going to be things happen in my day that I have no control over, that again, I have to manage my reactions to them. And some days I'm good at it, and some days I'm not so much. Again, there's no perfection here. I will never tell you that any of us can be perfectionists in this.
Nor should we look for it. Nor should we look for it.
Exactly.
That's the little agent that I had to cope with, and we all cope with it day to day, who are a
Yeah.
little anal and working towards this, that, or the other. But what we strive for, and tell me what your thinking is on this, Sheila, we who maybe were in that perfection mode, we're striving now for excellence.
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
big difference. There's a big divide.
There is.
I love words. Yet the differentiation between one or the other is really important. So I get what you're saying completely. Yes.
Well, and I'm a Virgo. The one thing about a Virgo is we're perfectionists. We're wired perfectionists. So, you know, it is perfectionism. When you look at the scale of saboteurs that people can have in their life, of the, I think it's 12 different saboteurs there are out there, perfectionism is one of the biggest ones there are.
Yes.
And it's the hardest for some of us to let go of.
And I think initially, Sheila, please help me with this, that when we all are starting out in life, pursuing our journey, our purpose, and whatever, we tend to kind of lean towards that perfection because we want to be the best of the best at what we're doing. And yet, after a while, we see all of everything around us, and we lean more towards striving to be and to get to as close as we can to excellence.
Well, and I think it all starts of our like upbringing in school.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
We're all judged on this numerical scale. We all want to get that 100% because we get the gold star or the blue ribbon or whatever it went with it. So we think that we are only that we have to be perfect to be considered the best.
Yes, yes.
Well, this is where the multiple intelligences come in. That was only one type of intelligence that was being measured in school. So when you realize that there's multiple intelligences involved, it changes. But it's hard because we're wired that way for so long that when we hit adulthood, we just continue doing that what we've been taught.
Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful what you said. Sheila, before we go on, and you've covered a lot for us and given us a lot, I want to put up some of the comments so that you can see them as well.
Oh, yes.
One of my loyal and faithful here, she says, I have the attitude now of, as it is perfect. Don't you love that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that not beautiful?
It's beautiful. I love it.
Team Virgo. I have 3 Virgos here.
Yes. Go Virgos. Yeah.
Team Virgo. And but by the way, that happens to be one of my many, many loves. A lot of people poo-poo it and they put it on the back burner, and that's okay. I have fun with it. I enjoy it, and it has merit for me. But I don't go into the trying to analyze it for someone and make it right for someone. And here is what our Jenna says. She says, really like the idea of gratitude list journal. May be hard on some days, but it might really make me think about things I like. That is good. That's a very good idea. So she's saying, bravo for the idea that you share with us. My darling, the time flies around here. It just tends to go. So
and I'm sorry, I only got through 2 of the 5 steps, but that's fine.
then let's go on. Listen, there is no time limit here. I want to be respectful of your time, but please share with us the other 2 or 3.
I'll just do them really quickly.
Don't rush. Take your time.
Okay. Well, number 3 was the practice of self-compassion. Now, self-compassion is not something we are ever taught, in school. And I think as adults, this is an area of growth that I think we all can do. I'm still working on it. I have to remind myself to not be so hard on myself when, I didn't get it right, or, I'm not perfect, right? Again, so this is where that you're dealing with your perfectionism comes in. Is just give yourself a break. You are doing the best that you can to the best of your ability in the moment that it was. Let it go. Kind of thing.
Sheila, boy, oh boy, you have to come back again and again. You know why I love that? Because we're all taught and we're shown and told in many ways to learn to be more compassionate. Let's start with ourselves. It all starts with us, right? Self-compassion.
It does.
I like it. I'm so glad you told me you had more. Continue.
Oh, yes. Okay. So the next one I call is practice of self-care. Now, I practice what I call extreme self-care because I think in society we have a certain perception of what self-care is. Mm-hmm. I have this, what I call the 7 pillars of self-care. So you've got the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, and the mental. I call those the 4 internal pillars. And then I have 3 external pillars, and that is social, environmental, and professional.
Oh,
So you have 7 different ways that you can show yourself self-care. Now, each one of those are a discussion in themselves, but it is when you and don't expect everyone to hit anything in self-care in all of those every day, right?
yeah.
But it is there are just certain things to be aware of. So in my group, like I have, like typical, like a lot of groups do self-care Sunday. And but when I say self-care Sunday, Sunday's not the only day we think about self-care. It is again a daily practice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, again, knowing who we are, listening to our body. What is it that I need? How can I nurture myself? Each day, there needs to be something in one of those 7 pillars that you do. So and again, it keeps with the happiness as a lifestyle. Like all these things are interrelated.
It's the basic elementary foundational things that for many of us, most of us, some of us, it depends on many variables that we sometimes put on the back burner and we forget. But it all starts with us. So this self-care and the 7 pillars, it makes a heck of a lot of sense to me.
Well,
So
and I like to say, as women, we're really good at putting ourselves on the back burner.
are we ever? Are we ever?
And we need to stop doing that.
Yes.
Between the self-compassion and the self-care, just how we feel about ourselves as women, I think that in itself would change. Our self-esteem would go up, our self-confidence goes up, our just how we carry ourselves. We love ourselves more if we can give ourselves these gifts. And then I'll just say the last one, and this one, some people may balk a little bit at it, but it's the practice of uncomfortability.
Ooh.
So what that means is I knew that for me to grow and grow into the person that I knew I wanted to be, that I wasn't there yet, I needed to put myself in situations where I was uncomfortable. And one of them for me had always been public speaking. So I had to suck it up and put myself in position until it was almost like an exposure therapy, right? I had to keep putting myself in until that the nervousness, the anxiety, the whatever story I've got going on in my head started to realize, oh, none of this is true. I'm not going to die if I get up in front of a group of people and say a few words. And now I say this because starting this weekend, I'm now in my international speech competition, of which, we'll see how far that goes. But it can happen. If there's something that causes you a lot of anxiety, it causes you to shrink back, but it's something that you really want to do, put yourself in uncomfortable positions till it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore, and then find the next one.
Oh, God.
Because that's where growth happens.
I'm chuckling away here. You know why? My friend Roy, who's here, can tell you this is not my arena. I have limited technical skills. I'm futzing around here doing this, that, and the other, but I'm having fun. And this starting out, still somewhat so, but not as much. So uncomfortable, so nerve-wracking. But you just get in there and you do it. I love this. Uncomfortability. That's a good one. Do you have the 5 listed so that I can put them up? Can you list them?
I can send it to you, definitely, or
can I put it on here? Put up your link and put your website, your name, and all that data. I'll just list the 5 to reignite your purpose and all of that, so that they can be there. And then when they get to you, you'll have something. Sheila, you are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you, Joy.
You are fantastic. I could go on like this for hours and hours and hours. And anybody who knows me or is getting to know me, they know this. I had some wonderful guests here tonight, and they all said that I have good guests. I have good people here because I'm a student and I love learning. And when I saw that you were about emotional intelligence, I said, oh, Sheila's got to come on the show. I'm so honored to have you here. Is there
I'm so happy you got a hold of me. I mean, I've had so much fun.
so much.
You are a doll. I absolutely adore you, even though I've only just met you today, really.
Yeah,
But I absolutely adore you.
well, the feeling is mutual, my friend, because I'm bringing people here that my heart is there, even though I don't know. And most people who connect with me in one way or the other, they know that. Is there anything that I didn't ask you? Is there anything that we didn't touch base? I know there's a vast circle of stuff that we could talk about, but is there anything that you want to leave us with or share with us before we say so long for now and I put you to the side? Anything at all?
I'd like to give everyone a little exercise, if that's okay.
That's great. Yes. Go.
Now, because because we were, before we came on air, we were talking about how, and even though, nothing against you, Roy, but we do talk about women mostly here. But Roy, you can do this as well, because I do it with a lot of my male clients as well. But it's when you talk about getting to know who you are and trying to be really comfortable in your identity and the self-awareness piece, I will always ask people shortly after they start working with me, who are you?
Yes.
Now, when you tell people to write a list of who you are, they will usually use their labels. Well, I'm a great accountant. I'm a great nurse. I'm a great mother. I'm a great, whatever. We use the labels of the roles that we play. I want to challenge you to make a list of who you are without using a role. You can only use descriptors, no roles. So you cannot put one of those hats on that you wear during the day and use that. You cannot have that. But who are you at the core? Not what you do, but who you are. And for some people, that may be a little bit tough.
Yes.
But I think if you're going to do anything in regards to even starting a path of transformation, you need to know you first. And now I'll stop talking.
Well, my love, there's no better way to end the show. I mean, that's it. I'm so in sync with you, Sheila. It's like I've known you for a lifetime. I have my weirdness too, don't we all?
We, of course. And I celebrate weird. So.
Yes. And my friends here, they all do too, or they wouldn't be here. Let me say again, thank you. I'm going to put you to the side for just a moment. I have enjoyed this. I sometimes wish I were in the audience and I were the guest so I could tune in and listen. Even though I'm tuning in and I'm listening, I want to really take it and soak it in. But thank you from my heart. Stay to the side for just a moment and then I'll get back to you. All right, my love?
Thank you.
And you can say goodbye to the audience. So long. What can I say? And thank you, my audience. I love the comments that you put up there. I attempted to put most of them up, but when you say that I have great guests, well, most of you have been a guest. So yes, you are great guests. And Sheila, I'm meeting a lot of people through this wonderful social media site that we all love, more or less, Facebook. And I'm making the connections because I love meeting, and I love it when my new best friend Sheila said to Roy, sorry, but this is for girls only, but Roy and April, who they're a team, April and I tease him all the time and we say, well, at heart, he's a girl as well. So it's okay. And I'm so happy and honored that he joined us tonight. But may I say, my friends, that it's always good to see you here. I love seeing you here. The whole intention for this show, which keeps mushrooming and growing, I grow, it grows, we're all growing, is to bring you women that ignite, reignite, inspire, enlighten, and motivate you to whatever your purpose and your goal is in life. That is the only intention. And that's what we're doing. So may I say again, thank you. I love it when I look and see that you're here. May you have the best weekend ever and the rest of this week. And do look forward to seeing us next Tuesday night for Style with Joy. And then every Wednesday, Leading Ladies, another leading lady next week that you're going to love as well. Until we connect, you be and stay well. All the best, my friend. And thank you again for coming. See you soon. So long for now. Cheers.